Chapter 11. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Itachi, after returning from this battlefield, you seem to have become a different person. Uchiha Manye took away his hand on Itachi's shoulder, looked at Itachi's lifeless eyes, and said in a very complicated tone, he really couldn't understand his elder brother's magical train of thought. Even a teenager like him was determined not to go to the battlefield, but he took his almost 5-year-old son to the battlefield to experience it. What do you want a 5-year-old child to understand on the battlefield? Uchiha Manye guessed that his elder brother just wanted Itachi to know that his stable life in Konoha was obtained by the disappearance of these fresh lives. He wanted Itachi to realize how hard it was for him to have everything he had now, and to train himself harder. Uchiha Manye did not agree with Uchiha Fuchio's way of education. Uncle. What is war? After hearing what Uchiha Itachi Manye said, his eyes gradually became bright. He asked with hope on his face. When Uchiha Itachi was on the battlefield, he met a dying enemy ninja. The ninja kept saying in a barely audible tone that he needed water. After Uchiha Itachi poured the water into him, he said thank you to Uchiha Itachi without seeing the person clearly. But when he opened his eyes and saw Uchiha Fugaku beside Uchiha Itachi, he immediately pulled out his kunai without hesitation and swung it at Uchiha Itachi. Itachi also subconsciously pulled out his kunai. He blew his kunai and killed the ninja who just thanked him. At that time, Uchiha Itachi asked his father why that man suddenly wanted to kill him when he had done nothing, but Uchiha Fugaku told him that it was a war. It was not a war between people, but a war between countries. Uchiha Itachi wanted to know what war was. Why did two people who didn't know each other fight like mortal enemies when they met? Facing this uncle whom he respected since childhood, Uchiha Itachi asked out his questions without reservation. War. Itachi, you are really different. After hearing Itachi's question, Uchiha Manye couldn't help but sigh. Then he looked at Uchiha Itachi with interest and continued. War may look different to everyone. Let me tell you my personal understanding of war. Yeah. Uchiha Itachi nodded gently. In my opinion, war is a dirty game. Uchiha Manye said calmly. Game. Why is war a game? Uchiha Itachi was shocked when he heard Manye's answer and asked hurriedly. Uchiha's understanding of games is that they are just activities for people to kill time in their spare time. Uchiha Itachi had almost no contact with this kind of thing since he was a child. Yes, war is a dirty game. The rulers of major countries are the players of this game. The ninjas fighting each other are all tools needed to win in the game. Uchiha Manye continued to reply. Uncle, why do you compare war to a game? Uchiha Itachi thought about it for a while, but he couldn't figure it out. He asked Manye again. Uchiha Itachi wanted to know why Manye concluded that war was a game. Itachi, do you know why wars break out between countries? Uchiha Manye chuckled twice. He did not answer Uchiha Itachi. Instead, he asked him. I don't know. Uchiha Itachi thought for a while and gave the answer. Itachi. So far, there have been 3 ninja world wars. There is only one reason why the ninja world launched 3 wars, and that is greed. Greed? Uchiha Itachi asked in a confused tone with a hint of surprise. That's right, it was greed. When the first ninja world war broke out. It's all because Konoha lost the first generation of the god of ninja. It also possesses enormous resources, and all the major countries are jealous, so they all launched an attack on Konoha. The second ninja world war was also like this. The rain country was unwilling to be relegated to a small country, so it launched wars against the iron country, the fire country, and the wind country to compete for resources. The same is true for the third war. The lightning nation took the lead in launching a sneak attack on the wind nation, where the wind shadow disappeared, and looted a lot of resources. Then the land of lightning declared war on the land of rock and the land of fire. The land of water, which had been watching the show, joined the war after seeing the major powers fighting each other, wanting to get a piece of the pie. This caused the ninja world to become a mess. After hearing this, Uchiha Itachi thought for a moment and immediately asked Uchiha Manye. Uncle, can they not survive without these resources? Otherwise, why would they start a war at the cost of the lives of ninjas? Uchiha Itachi was very sure that Manye would not deceive him with such a thing. that's why Uchiha Itachi thought that the resources of the major countries were extremely scarce. If they didn't start a war, the people in their own country would starve to death. Otherwise, why would each country be willing to sacrifice the lives of countless soldiers and madly plunder the resources of other countries? Itachi, you are already very good to think of this. But you guessed wrong this time. The resources of the 5 countries have always been sufficient, and the residents are far from starving to death. Uchiha Manye first praised Itachi, then he denied his answer. Why are they fighting like this? After hearing Manye's explanation, Uchiha Itachi became even more confused. He asked anxiously. Itachi, did you know? The former Rain country was actually an insignificant village in the ninja world. There was no national organization. The residents were caught in the cracks of the major countries fighting and couldn't even get enough food. At that time, the Rain country was called Rain Village, and all people wanted was to have enough food. This was originally a difficult wish for the Rain Village, but it was all realized by a man named Salamander Hanzo. The Rain Village, with the extremely powerful Hanzo of the Salamander, quickly annexed the surrounding ninja villages and quickly became the Rain country, second only to the 5 great countries. At that time, all the residents of the Rain country had enough food to eat, but after that, the Rain country still launched a war against the major ninja villages, which eventually led to heavy losses in its own country. Itachi, why did they start the war at that time? Uchiha Manye stopped talking here and asked Itachi again. I don't know. Uchiha Itachi answered directly. He really couldn't imagine that the Rain country had already realized their wishes and filled their stomachs. Why would they sacrifice countless lives to plunder the resources of other countries? Weasel. Because people's stomachs can never be filled. 11 Reading Everyday Fun, top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A person will never think that he has too much food. No one would think his house is too big. Uchiha Manye used his hands to gesture to Itachi, he said calmly. When he has a small house, he will want a big house. When he has a big house, he wants a big plot of land. They will try every possible means, including extremely vicious and ruthless methods and methods full of benevolence and morality. Come and plunder all resources. Uchiha Manye stared at Uchiha Itachi's eyes and said confidently. Uchiha Itachi was stunned when he heard Manye's words. He was stunned for a while and said in confusion. Uncle, how could they be like this? Itachi Uchiha didn't understand. In the values instilled in him by adults, he should share all his toys with his friends and help those in need. It's the truth that you can't chew too much. It's clearly what the adults told him, but why can't he do it? Although Itachi didn't understand what Uchiha Manye said, but out of respect for Manye, Uchiha Itachi still thought for a long time. Itachi. Human desires are like rolling stones on a mountain. Once they start, they can never be stopped. Uchiha Manye shook his head gently. He said in a strong voice. Ah. Why is this happening? We all know that you can't chew too much. Itachi Uchiha was still puzzled. He asked again. People have all kinds of natures. Greed is just one of them. Itachi, have you ever seen a child who is unwilling to share her life with others? After saying this mysteriously, Uchiha Manye asked Uchiha Itachi again. Uchiha Itachi was silent. He had indeed seen many children who were unwilling to share with others, and there were quite a few of them. Some children would even take advantage of their strong bodies to snatch toys from children who were thinner than them. This was indeed as Uchiha Manye said. But. Uchiha Itachi seemed to want to speak, but his voice became smaller and smaller. At this time, Uchiha Itachi was obviously unable to answer this question. Weasel, the biggest difference between humans and beasts is that humans can think, are rational, and can restrain their own nature. Although greed is one of the biggest human natures, it is not unavoidable. But such people are almost unique in the world. Itachi. You may become such a person in the future. Uchiha Manye held Uchiha Itachi's hands gently. He looked into his bright black eyes and said seriously, knowing what Uchiha Itachi would do in the future, Uchiha Manye was sure that Itachi could become such a person. can I? Uchiha Itachi pointed at himself in surprise after hearing Manye's words, he said in disbelief. Well. If it's Itachi, there shouldn't be any problem. Uchiha Manye released the hands that were holding Uchiha Itachi, he said affirmatively. Are you such a person, uncle? Uchiha Itachi looked at Manye and asked with a look of joy. Me? After hearing what Itachi said, Uchiha Manye smiled softly and did not respond. I probably can't do this yet. Uchiha Manye secretly gave his doctor a call in his heart. Uchiha Itachi looked at Manye thoughtfully without answering. The two of them were silent for a while. The scene fell silent for a while. By the way, uncle, can I ask you one more thing? Itachi Uchiha suddenly broke the silence again. He asked Manye with anticipation. Well, Itachi, go ahead and say it. Uchiha Manye nodded. Uncle, is life really meaningless? Uchiha Itachi asked cautiously. Some time ago, when Itachi was on the battlefield and mourning for the dead ninjas, he met Orochimaru. At that time, Orochimaru saw Uchiha Itachi mourning for the dead and said that mourning for the dead was meaningless. If death had a meaning, it would only exist when he could use it. At that time, Uchiha Itachi asked him what the meaning of life was. But Orochimaru told him that life had no meaning. This sentence came from the mouth of the famous three ninjas, which shocked Uchiha Itachi. During this period, Itachi had been thinking about whether life had meaning. But he could not get any answer. Even a terrible thought arose in his mind. Anyway, life is meaningless. It is better to die directly and end his life that has been destined. That's why Uchiha Itachi has been so listless these days. But now his uncle's words have solved a knot in his heart that he couldn't untie for a long time. He urgently wants to know what his uncle's understanding of life is. But Uchiha Itachi is also afraid. Afraid that his uncle will also say that life is meaningless. In that case, he might as well. Hee. Uchiha Manye chuckled twice. Itachi, someone once told me that the falling of leaves is like the death of a person. Uchiha Manye picked up a piece of cherry blossoms falling from the sky. Looking at the cherry blossom petals in his hand, he chuckled and said to Uchiha Itachi. Uncle. Why do you compare leaves with people? Uchiha Itachi stared at the petals in Manye's hand and asked expectantly. Although his uncle always used strange metaphors to answer his questions, he had to say that every time he heard his uncle's story, Uchiha Itachi would have a new understanding. Because it will eventually fall, just like human death, it will eventually come. Uchiha Manye played with the cherry blossom petals between his fingers. He replied lightly. After hearing Manye's analogy, Uchiha Itachi's pupils suddenly dilated. He stared at the petals in Uchiha Manye's hand tightly. Yes. Falling leaves are so similar to death. No matter what happens, the leaves will eventually fall off the branches. Isn't this just like human death? No matter what happens in life, death will eventually come. Uncle, what is the significance of that person's death? Uchiha Itachi didn't care about etiquette at this time. He asked Uchiha Manye anxiously. Itachi. It's too early for you to think about this now. Uchiha Manye used his other free hand to gently tap Uchiha Itachi's forehead. He did not continue to answer Uchiha Itachi's question. Uncle. Uchiha Itachi called out in a baby voice. Obviously, he still wanted to know his uncle's. Itachi, you. Uchiha Manye did not answer. He chuckled and scolded Uchiha Itachi. Then he slowly bent down. He gently placed the petals in his hand under the cherry tree. He grabbed some light soil and sprinkled it on the petals. He clapped his hands and looked at the petals buried by himself. He slowly looked at Uchiha Itachi and asked. Weasel. Is the life of a leaf just to return to its roots? 11. Read books every day, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is the life of leaves just to return to their roots? Uchiha Itachi lowered his head, looking at the cherry blossom petals scattered on the ground. He whispered unconsciously. Itachi. Uchiha Manye said lightly, pulling Uchiha Itachi back to reality. Ah. Uncle. Sorry. Uchiha was shocked. Then he said to Manye with an apologetic look. Think more, it also adds to the trouble. It's been a while since I tested your strength. Let me see how strong you are now. Uchiha Manye took a few steps back. He hooked his finger at Uchiha Itachi and said softly. Okay. Uncle. Uchiha Itachi nodded slightly after hearing Manye's words. He knew that his uncle told him not to be so confused. Without any hesitation, he instantly pulled out the kunai from his waist bag and threw it towards Uchiha Manye. Seeing the kunai coming towards him quickly, Uchiha Manye smiled faintly. He moved his right hand slowly, just when the kunai was about to hit Uchiha Manye. Uchiha Manye's index finger on his right hand immediately opened. The finger instantly passed through the ring behind the kunai handle. The fast-moving kunai immediately stopped moving. It did not move forward at all. Chirp, chirp. Suddenly, 3 high-speed kunai flew towards Uchiha Manye in his right hand. Uchiha Manye gently turned the kunai in his hand, held it in his hand, and waved it gently in front of him. Dang, dang, dang. 3 sounds of steel colliding were heard. All 3 kunai were blocked by Uchiha Manye. Uchiha Itachi saw that it was ineffective. He did not lose heart. He drew the kunai from his waist and rushed towards Uchiha Manye. Huh. Uchiha Manye chuckled twice. His body did not move at all, but his eyes were tightly closed. Uchiha Itachi had come to Manye at this moment. He instantly jumped up and swung the kunai in his hand towards Manye's neck. Swish. The sound of kunai cutting through the air was heard. This move obviously failed. Uchiha Itachi in the air did not pause at all. He quickly swung the kunai in his hand towards Uchiha Manye again. Uchiha Manye's body seemed to be able to predict in advance. He dodged Uchiha Itachi's continuous attacks with ease. Swish, swish, swish. All 3 attacks missed without exception. Just as Itachi was about to fall to the ground, Uchiha Manye suddenly opened his eyes. One arm stretched out to Uchiha Itachi's feet and instantly grabbed Uchiha Itachi's ankle. Manye exerted a little force in his hand. Ah! Uchiha Itachi only felt his eyes blurred. The scene in front of him became dizzy. At this moment, Uchiha Itachi was held by Manye's ankle with one hand. He was hanging upside down in the air. Well, Itachi is quite powerful. He has become much stronger during this period of time. Uchiha Manye supported Uchiha Itachi with both hands and gently put him down. He praised him. Itachi, who was put on the ground by Uchiha Manye, calmed down a little and said, "Compared to you, my uncle, I am still far behind." Uchiha Itachi shook his head slightly. He had tried his best in this small competition, but in front of his uncle, he was still no match. Ha ha ha. You are the future genius of Uchiha, and one day you will be stronger than me. Uchiha Manye chuckled. He rubbed Uchiha Itachi's little head and comforted him. Well, Itachi, I have to go too. Bye. Uchiha Manye looked at Itachi, whose eyes had regained their spirit. He knew that Uchiha Itachi's heart had changed a lot at this moment. He didn't say much to Uchiha Itachi. After saying hello to him for the last time, he left quietly. After watching Manye leave, Uchiha Itachi looked at the cherry blossom petals under his feet. He was distracted for a while and whispered softly. Is the life of a leaf just to return to its roots? Today is a special day for Uchiha Itachi. It is a very shocking day. It is also a very happy day for him. The 2 major knots that have been bothering him for a long time have almost been solved by his uncle. Regarding the war, Uchiha Itachi did not understand why his uncle said that, but he finally gave him a path to pursue. But the meaning of life, his uncle gave him an incomprehensible word. Itachi now cannot understand it. Uchiha Itachi, who was puzzled, gradually remembered the education his uncle had given him before. Uchiha Manye told him since he was a child that he must put the interests of himself and his family first. Anything that hurts himself, things concerning oneself and one's family, they are all one's enemies. Thinking of this, Uchiha Itachi began to feel conflicted again, because he was taught by Uchiha Shisui not long ago. He should put the overall interests of the village first, even if it means sacrificing himself, sacrificing Uchiha. Both of their words seemed to make sense, but they contradicted each other. Uchiha Itachi had to fall into deeper entanglement. That day, Uchiha Itachi stood under the cherry tree. He did not communicate with anyone. His body hardly moved. Gradually, he stood there until the night fell. Uchiha Itachi finally walked back home disappointed. He lay on the bed for a long time before falling asleep. The next day, Uchiha Itachi left home early in the morning. He came to the gate of a huge mansion. He waited quietly. Bang! The door of the house was pushed open from the inside. Handsome man in a green vest came out. Hey! Itachi, why are you here? Uchiha Manye looked at the small voice in front of him and asked in surprise. Uncle, my father asked me to ask you to go with him to attend the Konoha commendation ceremony. Uchiha Itachi looked a little haggard. It seemed that he was still struggling with the problem from yesterday. He respectfully replied to Many. Okay. Let's go. Uchiha Manye and Itachi rushed to Uchiha Fugaku's home one after the other. Along the way, Uchiha Itachi seemed to want to speak to Many, but when the words came to his lips, he couldn't say them anyway. Itachi, if you have anything to say, just say it. Uchiha Manye saw Itachi's troubles. While walking forward, he turned his head and asked him kindly. That uncle, is the life of a leaf really just to return to its roots? Uchiha Itachi no longer hesitated and asked the question he had been thinking about for a long time. Uchiha Manye had said to Itachi before, the return of leaves to their roots symbolizes the death of a person. The meaning of this sentence is to ask Many. Is a person's life just for death? Ha! You! Uchiha Manye chuckled twice and reprimanded him. Then he said calmly. Itachi, you are a young bud that has just grown. It is too early for you to ask this question. Uchiha Manye said, and then he ignored Uchiha Itachi and walked forward on his own. Uchiha Itachi followed Manye closely. Soon they arrived at the door of Uchiha Fugaku's house. As soon as they stepped into the house, they saw a beautiful lady. She was holding a sprinkler and watering the surrounding flowers and trees. Sister-in-law, we are here. Uchiha Manye said softly. Hey, it's Manye. What are you standing there for? Come in. Uchiha Mikoto was overjoyed when she saw Manye at the door. She waved to him to come in. 11, read books every day, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, sister-in-law. Uchiha Manye agreed and walked into the house. Your elder brother is changing clothes, Xiaoya, come in and have a cup of hot tea first. Uchiha Mikoto put the shower head on the stone pier beside her, then she led Uchiha Manye and Itachi into the living room. Sister-in-law, you go ahead and do your work. I'll pour the tea myself. After being brought into the living room by Mikoto, Uchiha Manye walked very naturally to the kettle. He turned his head and said to her, Uchiha Manye had come to this place countless times, there was really no need to act strange anymore. This would make the relationship seem less familiar. That's fine. Xiaoya, I'll be busy first, Itachi. You chat with your uncle for a while. Uchiha Mikoto nodded slightly to Manye, then, after instructing Uchiha Itachi, she left the living room. Uchiha Manye took the kettle and gently placed it on the table, then, he sat cross-legged on the futon. Uchiha Itachi knelt on the futon. He gently lifted the kettle and washed the 2 porcelain cups on the table with boiling water. After Itachi poured out the hot water in the cup, he gently sprinkled tea leaves in the cup. Finally, he poured boiling water into the cup. Itachi, your tea-making skills are getting better and better. Uchiha Manye looked at Itachi's smooth movements and couldn't help but praise him. Uncle, you are too kind. Uchiha Itachi replied calmly. Itachi, has anyone ever told you that you are boring? Uchiha Manye shook his head and asked with a chuckle. No, they just said it was weird. Uchiha Itachi replied calmly. Forget it, be careful that no girl will like you in the future. Uchiha Manye picked up the teacup and took a sip. Uchiha Itachi didn't know how to respond, so he didn't say anything. After that, while the two of them were drinking tea in the living room, Uchiha Manye asked Itachi a lot of questions about cultivation. Suddenly, a voice interrupted their conversation. Little brother, you're here. Uchiha Manye looked up and saw Uchiha Fugaku, wearing a green vest, standing at the door. Big brother. Father. Uchiha Manye and Itachi greeted Uchiha Fugaku one after another. Well, little brother, has Itachi made significant progress recently? Uchiha Fugaku nodded calmly, then he asked Manye. Uchiha Manye had been Itachi's de facto teacher for a long time. So he would ask Manye about Itachi's condition from time to time. If he had free time, he would also personally test Itachi's strength. Itachi has made great progress. But it's a bit too much for you to bring him to the battlefield this time, brother. Uchiha Manye first praised Itachi, then he reprimanded his elder brother. Uchiha Fugaku was quite proud when he heard the first half of Manye's sentence, but when he heard the second half, his face instantly fell. he was not afraid of being reprimanded by others. But when facing the reprimand from this younger brother who was much younger than him, he felt a little nervous. This younger brother of his was so smart that he was almost a demon. Whenever he mentioned his strategy in front of him, once he started to dissuade or blame him, and he didn't listen to the advice, the results happened, which made him regret not listening to the advice. As a result, when Uchiha Fugaku faced the advice or blame from his younger brother later, he would subconsciously think that he had done something wrong again. So now, Uchiha Fugaku felt nervous when facing Manye's reprimand. "I don't want to talk to you, let's go." Uchiha Manye rolled his eyes at his elder brother, then he stood up. Okay. Uchiha Fugaku wiped the non-existent sweat on his forehead and answered quickly. The three of them walked out of the living room and greeted Uchiha Mikoto together. Uchiha Fugaku walked out of the house with Manye and Itachi. At this time, a large group of Uchiha clan members had gathered at the exit of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Fugaku waved his hand, and all the gathered Uchiha clan members followed behind Uchiha Fugaku. The group came to the square of yesterday in a mighty manner. It was still the familiar high platform, and it was still the familiar crowd. "Uchiha clan, your position is here," a man with a Konoha forehead guard tied to his shoulder suddenly said to the Uchiha clan. "Yes." Uchiha nodded and led his clansmen to the direction pointed by the man. When they arrived at the designated position, the faces of the Uchiha clan members instantly turned pale. The position where the Uchiha clan was at the moment was almost the edge of the entire square. If you don't look carefully at every place in the venue, those people may not even know whether the Uchiha clan participated in the commendation meeting. What kind of a shitty position is this? My Uchiha clan has made many achievements in battle. Just let us stand here. An Uchiha Jonin wearing a forehead protector and a green vest cursed. That is, how can we stand in a place like this? Why? Those who cook rice are standing closer to us. All of a sudden, the Uchiha clan members began to curse. The Uchiha clan members over there, you are angry in your hearts, and we are also angry in our hearts. A resentful voice came from the left. The Uchiha clan members looked carefully and saw that on their left, there was a large group of ninjas with white eyes. They were the big clans in Konoha that were as famous as theirs, the Hyuga clan, the two strongest clans in Konoha. They looked at each other with complicated expressions. None of them expected that they, as the main force on the battlefield, were arranged in the most inconspicuous corner of the square. Even the ninjas who were making fire and cooking stood in front of them. Thinking of this, Uchiha Fugaku and Hyuga Hayashi looked at the third-generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen who had just walked onto the stage. Their eyes were full of anger. However, Uchiha Fugaku and Hyuga Hayashi were the heads of the clan after all. They suppressed their anger and forcibly appeased their clansmen. Now is not the time to make trouble. Silence. The victory of the Third Great Ninja War. Sarutobi Hiruzen stood on the platform. After calling for silence, he began to speak at length. After a long while, when almost everyone present had fallen asleep, the Sandaime Hokage suddenly woke up countless people with a word. Next, we will reward those who have made contributions in this war. 11 read books every day, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The words of the third Hokage instantly touched everyone's heartstrings. Almost everyone cheered. The first one is Minato Namikaze, who became famous in the Third Ninja World War. He once stopped the current fourth-generation Raikage and the Eight Tails alone. He also faced dozens of Jonin alone in the battle with Kanabi Bridge. Destroy countless enemies in the Water Kingdom, the Earth Kingdom, the Thunder Kingdom, and the Wind Kingdom. Special reward for him. Even the experienced Sarutobi Hiruzen was amazed after reading about Minato Namikaze's many outstanding achievements. Because Minato Namikaze possessed the space-time ninjutsu, he could travel to various battlefields. In addition, the 5 major countries were almost in a mess. The combat power was extremely scarce. Minato Namikaze, who had the ability of space teleportation, was almost used as 4. Of course, the effect was also remarkable. These pieces of merits written with words were the perfect proof of Minato Namikaze. Even the Hokage was like this, let alone other people. after hearing about Minato Namake's achievements, they couldn't keep calm in an instant, except for the people from the major families. Basically everyone was shouting Minato Namake's name. Namake's Minato. Minato Namake's. Standing at the front of the square, Minato Namake's beside Jiraiya lowered his head shyly. Minato actually has such a reputation. There shouldn't be any problem now. Sarutobi Hiruzen stood on the high platform, hearing the people below shouting Namake's Minato's name crazily. He was relieved in his heart. Konoha's management is not composed of one person, but multiple candidates. This was the second-generation Hokage. In order to prevent the Hokage from using the village as a tool to pursue personal private interests for various reasons, other people in the management can impeach the Hokage. Although Konoha won the victory in the Third Ninja World War this time, the strength of the village in all aspects has actually declined seriously. You must know that there has always been a Shimura Danzo in the Elder Council who has been eyeing the position of Hokage. This time, he caused Konoha's combat power to suffer such a serious loss. Even 12-year-old warriors were deployed on the battlefield. Shimura Danzo could not use this reason to impeach himself. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't believe it 100 times, and Shimura Danzo is now fighting with the big Orochimaru. This strong contender for the position of Hokage was implicated. It was obvious that Shimura Danzo wanted to use Orochimaru to replace his own Hokage, and take advantage of some weakness of Orochimaru, turn Orochimaru into his puppet Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen knew the character of his disciple very well. He disliked trouble. He would never want to trouble the position of Hokage, but this time he volunteered to come to him and said that he wanted to become Hokage. Obviously, something was wrong, since the position of Hokage was almost lost. Sarutobi Hiruzen came up with a perfect solution, that is to voluntarily withdraw from the position of Hokage and become a member of the Elders' Council of Konoha. Like Shimura Danzo, he would firmly control the Umbu in his own hands, and use the management mechanism of several elders to control the puppet Namake's Minato. Now that everyone respects Namake's Minato so much, this is obviously a great way for him. Next up is Orochimaru. Sarutobi Hiruzen forced himself to calm down. He continued to talk about the merits of the next person. As long as they were close to the Hokage, their military exploits would be mentioned by name. The Uchiha clan and the Hyuga clan were only mentioned lightly, but the only thing that comforted the Uchiha clan was that Sarutobi Hiruzen emphasized on Uchiha Shisui. The record of almost defeating the Water Kingdom was all attributed to Uchiha Shisui. The Uchiha clan members were speechless after hearing this. But after all, Uchiha Shisui was a member of the Uchiha clan. Compared with the Hyuga clan who were said to have almost no military exploits, they felt that they were already very good. The people who had made great military exploits and were named by the Sandaime Hokage did not cause the whole audience to boil again. Well, today is the last minute. I hope we can leave it to those dead warriors. Go to the cemetery to see our dead compatriots, Sarutobi Hiruzen said, and then he left the platform. After hearing what the Hokage said, the excitement of the warriors in the audience suddenly subsided. They began to go to the cemeteries they built for their friends or relatives in a lost state. In those cemeteries, there were many with only one piece of clothing. The crowd around them gradually dispersed. A new special place is here, Konoha Cemetery. Suddenly, a mechanical reminder sounded in his mind. Uchiha Manye was immediately surprised. He hadn't seen a special sign-in for a long time. The normal sign-in basically only contained some useless knowledge such as postpartum care for sows. Brother, I'm going to the cemetery. Uchiha Manye left this sentence and immediately turned and left. A not very big cemetery. There are gray-white tombstones standing inside. Compared with other cemeteries, there are not many tombstones here. At this time, Uchiha Manye walked in. Is this the cemetery where Konoha's former celebrities are buried? Uchiha Manye looked at this not-so-gorgeous cemetery and whispered to himself. System sign in. Uchiha suddenly said silently in his mind. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Nine-magatama Samsara Eye plus 1.1. Congratulations to the host, the Nine-magatama Samsara Eye inheritance value has reached 30%, and the third ability has been successfully activated. Suddenly, in Uchiha Manye's mind, a series of system prompts came in. This time, the third ability was activated. Uchiha Manye thought in surprise. Open the system panel. Chapter 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Host, Uchiha Manye. Level, movie. Comment. Almost no one in the world says you are an opponent anymore. Special ability, Nine-magatama Samsara Eye. 30%. Currently unlocked, primary 6 paths, sky hand power, insight into everything. Abilities, observation haki, armament haki, conqueror haki, mastery of all 5 elements except S-level escape techniques, forbidden technique multiple shadow clone technique, thunder method Chidori. The Eye of Insight. Uchiha Manye looked at the unfamiliar words on the system panel and said to himself, feeling the strangeness in his pupils, Uchiha Manye already knew the function of the Eye of Insight. Nine-magatama Samsara Eye. Open. Uchiha Nan gently closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the purple-white pupils had turned blood red. In the center of the pupils were 3 black magatama that kept spinning. Is this the ability to see through everything? Uchiha Manye gently grabbed a handful of air in front of him, he said incredulously. Now the whole world in Uchiha Manye's eyes turned into gray and white. Uchiha Manye could even see through the buildings and see the dense human figures in the distance, and the blue chakra in their bodies. And now Uchiha Manye's perspective is absolutely 360 degrees without blind spots. Is this the vision of the Byakugan? No, it should be a vision that is more powerful than the Byakugan. Uchiha Manye remembered that the Byakugan's vision could only be infinitely close to 360 degrees at most, but it could never reach the perfect 360 degrees without blind spots, and now Uchiha Manye can be sure that his perspective has absolutely 360 degrees. But it seems that the veins on his face are not as bulging as his eyes. Uchiha Manye touched the skin outside his eye sockets and found that it was no different from usual. He secretly sighed in his heart. But it's okay, after all, when the Hyuga clan uses their Byakugan, they still look a bit ugly. Uchiha Manye has seen many people from the Hyuga clan use their Byakugan, which really deducts a few points from their looks. But it seems there are some more interesting abilities. Uchiha Manye suddenly turned his gaze to a tombstone in the distance. He saw a silver-haired boy about 12 or 13 years old, holding a bunch of white flowers. He stared at the tombstone in front of him indifferently, but in Uchiha Manye's eyes, there was another man with silver-white hair, wearing a green vest and a Konoha forehead protector next to the tombstone. His eyes were full of desolation and vicissitudes. He stared at the boy in front of him intently. The man's body was like a phantom. It seemed that he did not exist in the boy's eyes. Can you actually see souls? What an interesting ability. After seeing the man and the boy at the tombstone, Uchiha Manye understood their identities. They were Hatake Kakashi and his father, the legendary Konoha White Fang, Hatake Sakumo. Uchiha Manye did not disturb the boy's silence. He watched them quietly from a distance. Kakashi slowly bent down and gently placed the bunch of white flowers in his hand under Hatake Sakumo's tombstone. Without saying another word, he turned around and walked towards the entrance of the cemetery, and Uchiha Manye happened to be at the entrance of the cemetery. Kakashi. Long time no see. Uchiha Manye looked at the boy in front of him and greeted him softly. Uchiha Manye. Long time no see. Kakashi responded expressionlessly when Manye greeted him, because Hatake Kakashi had long been arranged into his own faction by the third Hokage. Kakashi did not have many opportunities to meet Manye. In most cases, Kakashi's understanding of Manye was basically learned from his friends of the same period. Kakashi only knew that Manye was a very powerful person. But now Kakashi didn't want to pay attention to anyone. After hastily greeting Uchiha Manye, he left in a hurry. Oh. Kids nowadays. Uchiha Manye chuckled and shook his head. After sighing, his pupils transformed into the Nine-magatama Samsara Eye again. He walked straight to the tombstone of Hatake Sakumo. Uchiha Manye soon arrived in front of Hatake Sakumo's tombstone. Hatake Sakumo, who was in the form of a phantom, ignored Uchiha Manye who came in front of him. His eyes were fixed on Kakashi's departing back until he completely disappeared from his sight. Hatake Sakumo then turned his gaze to Uchiha Manye who was standing in front of him. He saw Uchiha Manye staring at his eyes and smiling at him. Hatake Sakumo was immediately shocked. He pointed at himself and asked hurriedly. Can you see me? Yes. Uchiha Manye nodded slightly. You can actually see me. Hatake Sakumo was shocked when he got the answer. He looked at Uchiha Manye in disbelief. Mr. Manye, can you tell me about Kakashi's situation over the years? At this moment, Hatake Tsukumo no longer cared about the doubts in his heart and the strangeness of Uchiha Manye. He hurriedly asked Uchiha Manye. Uchiha Manye did not answer, but looked at him with pity. This great hero of Konoha, who had met him several times in the past, was forced to death by the top leaders of Konoha, whom he protected, using the pressure of public opinion. Isn't this very sad? Pathetic. Uchiha Manye shook his head and said two words to Hatake Tsukumo from the bottom of his heart. However, facing Hatake Tsukumo's question, Uchiha Manye did not show a trace of interest on his face. Kakashi, what's the situation in these years? Even Uchiha Manye shook his head slightly. Ever since Hatake Tsukumo died. Kakashi's life has been a dark one, but since the other party asked, then Chiba, naturally, he would not refuse. Moreover, he was also happy to tell Hatake Tsukumo. Then Uchiha Manye continued to speak. After you died, Kakashi lost his right eye on the battlefield. Then his best friend also left to protect him. Finally, he had no choice but to kill another close friend of his. Now he has almost lost everything. Uchiha Manye said this. At this moment, Hatake Tsukumo, his face had turned pale. His face was filled with disbelief. He was mumbling something. How could this happen? This is not what I thought. Kakashi is clearly protected by Minato and the others. Things shouldn't be like this. And the third Hokage also promised me. Tears streamed down Hatake Tsukumo's face. He asked himself in disbelief. It was because he got the promise from Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo that he let go of the last bit of worry in his heart. That's why he committed suicide in grief, because his heart was stabbed by the people he protected. Hatake Tsukumo used his remaining chakra to force his soul to stay on the tombstone for 5 years. He refused to leave for a long time. It was also because he wanted to see Kakashi's condition. Now Uchiha Manye told him that Hatake Kakashi's life was so miserable. How could he accept it? 11 Reading Everyday Fun. Top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. White Fang. Kakashi at that time was affected by your death. He was ready to join the route based on the mission. Did you know that? Uchiha Manye asked Hatake Tsukumo. What? Kakashi is actually going to join the route. Hatake Tsukumo's pupils dilated instantly. Every word of Uchiha Manye was like a sharp blade to him, stabbing his heart again and again. As a former captain of the Umbu, he naturally understood what the route was. Almost all the people in the route were trained ruthless machines. There were no family, no friends, and no emotions. All the people in the route needed to do was to complete the mission. What's more, Danzo of the route was the fuse that led to his own death. Kakashi actually joined the route for his own reasons. Hatake Tsukumo's heart was almost broken. Many, how could this happen? How could Sarutobi Hiruzen let Kakashi join the route? The angry Hatake Tsukumo called out the third Hokage's name. He asked Manye with a look of disbelief on his face. Ha! White Fang, what have you forgotten? Wasn't your death caused by Sarutobi Hiruzen's secret instructions? Do you really think that you can force a hero with outstanding military achievements with the help of a mere elder of Konoha? Uchiha Manye sneered twice, then he asked Hatake Tsukumo again. Alas, Hatake Tsukumo sighed heavily. He did not answer. In the past few years since his death, he had already figured it out. He knew that his death was related to almost every high-ranking official in Konoha. It was precisely because of this that Hatake Tsukumo did not dare to leave the world for a long time. Because he was worried about what kind of life Hatake Kakashi would live under these black-hearted Konoha high-ranking officials. Sarutobi Hiruzen, you actually treated me like this. Hatake Tsukumo suddenly looked up at the Hokage building in the distance. His eyes were filled with anger and hatred. He couldn't accept such a result. He clearly said that as long as he died, everything can be stable, but the actions of the Konoha high-level officials made Hatake Tsukumo feel cold. At this moment, Uchiha Manye breathed a sigh of relief after seeing the other party's expression. Hatred will blind people's eyes, and White Fang, now, completely immersed in hatred. White Fang, you don't have to worry too much. Namake's Minato has already secured an opportunity for Kakashi, his disciple, to go to the Umbu. As the soon-to-be fourth-generation Hokage, Minato still has some say. Uchiha Manye looked at Hitoki Sakumo like this, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. Suddenly, a plan came to his mind and he said calmly. Minato. Hitoki Sakumo heard Manye's words and thought of Namake's Minato. He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Hitoki Sakumo, how about we make a deal? Uchiha Manye asked Hitoki Sakumo with a smile. Trade? I'm already dead, is there anything worth trading with me? Hitoki Sakumo asked in confusion after hearing Manye's words. He was dead now and could no longer influence anything in the world. He really couldn't think of anything else about himself that could be traded with Uchiha Manye. Of course, no matter if they are dead or alive, they all have their own value, just more or less. Uchiha Manye shook his head slightly. So what do you want from me, and what do I want from you? Hitoki Sakumo asked doubtfully. A transaction is a transaction when both parties exchange things that they think are of equal value. He really couldn't think of what he could offer Uchiha Manye now, nor could he think of what Uchiha Manye had that could help a dead man like him. I can help you revive, and during the time of resurrection, you can escape the confines of the cemetery and observe Hitoki Kakashi's every move. Uchiha Manye replied calmly. What? Hitoki Sakumo was shocked when he heard Manye's words. His pupils suddenly shrank, and he looked at Uchiha Manye in front of him in disbelief. You just said you can bring me back to life. How is that possible? Hitoki Sakumo came to his senses and said in disbelief. In Hitoki Sakumo's mind, there was no concept of resurrection from the dead. Look carefully at my eyes. Uchiha Manye suddenly opened his eyes wide and looked at Hitoki Sakumo. Gudon. Hitoki Sakumo looked at Uchiha Manye's mysterious and majestic eyes. He couldn't help swallowing his saliva. His eyes were full of horror. Hitoki Sakumo didn't know why. After looking into Uchiha Manye's eyes, a huge fear surged from the bottom of his heart. It seemed that every part of his soul was telling him that everything about him. These eyes have seen through everything. Gudon. You, what are those eyes of yours? Hitoki Sakumo looked at Uchiha Manye's purple-white eyes and asked in shock. You now cannot understand the eyes I have now. Do you know the eyes of the Six Paths Sage, the founder of the ninja clan? Uchiha Manye shook his head, then someone asked softly. Are you saying that you have the Samsara Eye? Hitoki Sakumo asked in disbelief. As a ninja, he had naturally heard of the story of the Six Paths Sage, and the eyes in the Six Paths Sage's legend were the Samsara Eye. Well, you can think of my eyes as a kind of Samsara Eye. Uchiha Manye nodded. He did not deny Hitoki Sakumo's guess. After all, it was quite troublesome to explain to Hitoki Sakumo the various forms of Samsara Eye, and what Uchiha Manye hated most was trouble. You actually have the Samsara Eye. Hitoki Sakumo said with a shocked face after getting Manye's confirmation. As long as he is a ninja, he must know about the Six Paths Sage. According to legend, he passed chakra to everyone in the world and protected the ancestor of the ninja for many times. Now Uchiha Manye actually has the same eyes as the ancestor of the ninja. Anyone who knows this kind of thing should be shocked. Hitoki Sakumo did not doubt whether Uchiha Manye was deceiving himself, because he himself was a dead man. Why would Uchiha Manye deceive a dead person? After calming down the shock in his heart, Hitoki Sakumo took a long breath. Then, he slowly asked. What do I need to pay? Yes, Hitoki Sakumo knew very well, a person like Uchiha Manye would never do anything without benefit. Moreover, he also wanted to live, especially after being in the darkness for many years. He saw hope. He wanted to desperately grasp this ray of hope. He could have endured the darkness, but Uchiha Manye gave him hope. No dead person can refuse to be resurrected. Everyone wants to live. It's very simple. After I resurrect you, when I need you, you must come to remove the veil of darkness that Sarutobi Hiruzen is covering. And stand by me, and follow me to overthrow the current Konoha. Uchiha Manye said calmly to Hitoki Sakumo. He thought a lot. Only one of Uchiha and Konoha can survive, and there is no need for Uchiha to leave. Why should he leave? Konoha was established by Uchiha and Senju from the beginning to the end. It is the high-level cancer of Sarutobi Hiruzen's faction that should go. Since there will be a war one day, so at this moment, we have to make some arrangements. What on earth are you going to do? Hitoki Sakumo was completely shocked by Manye's words. He asked word by word. Nothing, I just don't want to be like you, so I leave a little trick for myself. Uchiha Manye replied indifferently. Then he said to Hitoki Sakumo. Whether to trade or not, €S up to you. 11, read books every day, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under Manye's gaze, Hatake Sakumo pondered for a long time. Finally, he heaved a long sigh of relief and uttered the word okay. Hatake Sakumo thought of what he had done for Konoha, 256 D-level missions, 384 C-level missions, 266 B-level missions, 123 A-level missions, and the last 27 S-level missions. He also thought of what happened to himself and his children. Finally, he let go of his obsession with Konoha. No one's heart is made of stone, it can remain unchanged for thousands of years. Hatake Sakumo's hot heart has gradually cooled down under the continuous harm of Konoha. Hatake Sakumo has decided. He wants to live once for himself and for Kakashi. Okay. I'll let you meet Hatake Kakashi first. Uchiha Manye suddenly glared at Hatake Sakumo. A light purple light instantly enveloped Hatake Sakumo's body. When the purple light on Hatake Sakumo dissipated, there seemed to be no change on his body, but if you observe carefully, you will find that Hatake Sakumo's shadow is a little more solid than before. You can leave on your own. Uchiha Manye waved his hand towards Hatake Sakumo and said calmly. This unprecedented feeling of fullness. Hatake Sakumo looked down at his body, feeling the fullness of his body at this moment. He felt very incredible. Hatake Sakumo slowly took a step outside the tombstone. It's really all right now. Hatake Sakumo looked back at the place where he had been for 5 years. He couldn't help but say to himself. You can go see your child now. Uchiha Manye reminded again. Thank you very much. Hatake Sakumo clasped his fists towards Uchiha Manye and said with great gratitude. Uchiha Manye nodded gently to Hatake Sakumo. Hatake Sakumo was about to go find Kakashi, but suddenly stopped. He turned back to look at Uchiha Manye and asked. Aren't you afraid that I will never come back after I leave? Hatake Sakumo really didn't expect that Uchiha Manye would not set any restrictions on him and let him go. Isn't he afraid that after he met Kakashi, he would be satisfied and stop cooperating with him? You will come back, and it doesn't matter if you don't come back. I don't need such a person. Uchiha Manye chuckled twice, he said lightly. At this moment, Hatake Sakumo was stunned for a moment, then he showed a self-deprecating smile. He was worrying too much. Everything he has now was given by Uchiha Manye, and if Uchiha Manye wants to take it back, it is only a matter of thought. Then, the figure slowly disappeared from the spot. He would look back at Uchiha Manye. After Uchiha Manye saw Hatake Sakumo walk out of the cemetery, he closed his Nine-magatama reincarnation eye again. At this time, the sky was getting dark. People who mourned for their comrades and relatives gradually left the cemetery. Uchiha Manye walked alone on the streets of Konoha, looking at the people around him with sad faces. This Sarutobi Hiruzen. Uchiha Manye couldn't help but shook his head. In his heart, he criticized the third Hokage. Obviously, the casualties in this war were so severe that even children of 12 or 13 years old went to the battlefield. However, there was no increase in the pension for these ninjas who suffered heavy casualties. Uchiha Manye quickly returned to his home. After a simple dinner, he lay on the bed and fell asleep. 2 days later. In Uchiha Manye's home, a man with silver hair walked in. The sun is so bright today. In front of the door of Uchiha Manye's room, he stretched out his body and yawned. This is it. Uchiha Manye seemed to sense something. The Nine-magatama Samsara Eye instantly opened. The shadow of Hatake Sakumo appeared in the courtyard. White Fang, you are here. Uchiha Manye nodded to Hatake Sakumo and said lightly. Manye. I am willing to be loyal to you. Hatake Sakumo saw Uchiha Manye looking at him. He immediately knelt on one knee, clasped his hands together, and respectfully said to Uchiha Manye. Get up first. Uchiha Manye asked Hatake Sakumo to stand up first, then he asked calmly. How about it, have you seen Kakashi's current situation clearly? Yeah. Hatake Sakumo nodded with a grim expression. He had been following Kakashi these days. He witnessed everything in Kakashi's life. He saw Kakashi join the Umbu, he saw him kill people and carry out all the dark tasks. After returning home, the shadow of the death of his two best friends has been tormenting Kakashi. Kakashi is in physical and mental torture every day, but no one cares. Although Namake's Minato has the intention, he is entangled in the trivial matters of the third Hokage. He is simply unable to do what he wants. However, in Hitaki Tsukumo's heart he was still grateful to Minato Namake's. If he hadn't let Hitaki Kakashi join the Umbu, and eventually led to Hitaki Kakashi joining the root, Hitaki Tsukumo couldn't imagine what kind of changes would happen to Kakashi at that time. Hitaki Tsukumo felt extremely heartbroken about what happened to Kakashi. At the same time, he hated Sarutobi Hiruzen and the Konoha high-ranking officials even more. Hitaki Tsukumo had secretly vowed that he must be loyal to Uchiha Manye and let the Konoha high-ranking officials know after his resurrection. What would happen if he was bullied like this? What is this? That at the moment when Hitaki Tsukumo expressed his loyalty to him, Uchiha Manye suddenly got a message in his mind, that is, his Samsara Eye's ability to see through everything can actually see through the battle-related memories in the soul of the loyalist. Doesn't this mean that we can obtain the swordsmanship of Konoha White Fang? Uchiha Manye thought with great surprise. Tsukumo, I need your help with something, Uchiha Manye said to Hitaki Tsukumo urgently. Master Manye, just speak frankly. If Tsukumo can do it, I will die for it. Hitaki Tsukumo did not hesitate at all. He immediately agreed to Uchiha Manye's request. Now he has nothing, there is nothing to be afraid of. Okay, Tsukumo, come with me into the house first. After Uchiha Manye finished speaking, he took Hitaki Tsukumo into his empty living room. Tsukumo, I will use the Samsara Eye to extract your battle memory. Do you understand? Hitaki Tsukumo was shocked when he heard Manye's words. He didn't expect that the Samsara Eye had such a power. It should be said that it is indeed worthy of being the eye of the ancestor of the ninja. After sighing in his heart, Hitaki Tsukumo replied to Uchiha Manye without hesitation. The Samsara Eye can actually do something like this? Okay, I understand. Master Manye, please start. 11, read books every day, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Manye and Hitaki Tsukumo sat opposite each other. Uchiha Manye's Nine-magatama Samsara Eye suddenly emitted a deep purple light. Hitaki Tsukumo could not help but close his eyes under this intense light. The rich purple light instantly shot towards Hitaki Tsukumo. Hitaki Tsukumo's whole body was immediately covered by the purple light. One memory after another poured into Uchiha Manye's mind. Hitaki Tsukumo's first swing of the sword, the first time he fought with others, the first time he learned to use ninjutsu, the first time he perfected Hitaki's swordsmanship, the first time, all of Hitaki Tsukumo's memories of the battle were poured into Uchiha Manye's mind. Uchiha Manye closed his eyes and carefully experienced Hitaki Tsukumo's memories. After a long time, Uchiha Manye slowly opened his eyes. Mysterious light flashed in his Nine-magatama Samsara Eyes. Uchiha Manye let out a long breath. Looking a little tired, Hitaki Tsukumo beside him had already opened his eyes and was watching Uchiha Manye intently. Tsukumo, thank you. Uchiha Manye thanked Hitaki Tsukumo. Uchiha Manye didn't care about the memory of ninjutsu in Hitaki Tsukumo's battle memory. Because he had already learned all the ninjutsu below S-level ninjutsu. Uchiha Manye also learned the few S-level forbidden techniques that Hitaki Tsukumo knew. The most helpful thing for Uchiha Manye from Hitaki Tsukumo's battle memory was Hitaki Tsukumo's top swordsmanship. Uchiha Manye has now obtained all of Hitaki Tsukumo's insights into swordsmanship. Master Manye, all this is just a small matter. Besides, I have nothing to lose. By the way, Master, is my memory helpful to you? Hitaki Tsukumo waved his hand and said nonchalantly. He was a little scared about Uchiha Manye's memory extraction. He was prepared for the pain. But he didn't expect that the memory extraction process would be so easy. It was almost just a blink of an eye. The memory extraction on his body was over. Yes. It's a great help. Tsukumo, you should just call me Manye in the future. After all, you were my elder in the past, Uchiha Manye said kindly to Hitaki Tsukumo. It's okay as long as it helps you, After hearing what Uchiha Manye said, Hatake Sakumo couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He had seen too many people who were abandoned because they were useless. Although Uchiha Manye always said that he needed his help, Hatake Sakumo was not so arrogant that he, a dead man, would be of great help to Uchiha Manye, who now possessed the sage's eye. Uchiha Manye suddenly closed the Nine-magatama Samsara Eye. His pupils returned to their dark color. But Hatake Sakumo did not disappear in his eyes. Sure enough, Uchiha Manye suddenly realized that the ability to observe the soul of all things can be used without opening the Nine-magatama Samsara Eye, so he tried it. "Manye, can't you see me?" Hatake Sakumo waved his hand in front of Manye and shouted. "I can see it," Uchiha Manye responded calmly. "Manye, isn't your ability to see souls given by the Rinnegan?" "Yes. But I found that the ability to observe souls can be used without opening the Samsara Eye." "So that's how it is," Hatake Sakumo said with sudden realization. Then Uchiha Manye and Hatake Sakumo connected and started chatting. At the same time, in the Hokage building, the Sandaime Hokage called someone to notify Uchiha Shisui to come to the Hokage building to find him. Knock, knock. Two crisp knock sounded at the door. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was carefully checking the accounts, immediately stopped what he was doing. He turned his head and looked at the door. "Please come in." A young man who looked about 13 or 14 years old, wearing Uchiha clan clothes, carrying a small sword on his back and a Konoha forehead protector, opened the door and walked in. "Hokage-sama," Uchiha Shisui said respectfully to Sarutobi Hiruzen. "Shisui, you are here." Sarutobi Hiruzen said in a passionate tone. "Well, Lord Hokage, what is the matter that you want me to do?" Uchiha Shisui nodded his forehead and asked Sarutobi Hiruzen very respectfully. "It's not a big deal, but what you did on the water country battlefield this time was really great. I couldn't help but want to call you over to praise you a little bit," Sarutobi Hiruzen replied with a smile. "This is what I should do, Hokage-sama." Hearing Sarutobi Hiruzen's praise, Uchiha Shisui couldn't hide the joy on his face. He replied modestly to Sarutobi Hiruzen. Then Sarutobi Hiruzen praised Uchiha Shisui. Uchiha Shisui's face turned red. He lowered his head involuntarily. It was obvious that Uchiha Shisui was very pleased with Sarutobi Hiruzen's praise. After all, Sarutobi Hiruzen was the one he had admired since he was a child. "Shisui, how do you view the relationship between the family and the village?" After discovering that Uchiha Shisui was very close to him, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly changed the subject and asked nonchalantly. However, from the gleam in his eyes, it can be seen that Sarutobi Hiruzen was not calm at the moment. "The village is everyone's village, and the family is an individual's family. If I have to choose between my family and my village, I will choose my village without hesitation." Uchiha Shisui raised his forehead and replied to Sarutobi Hiruzen in a strong voice. Without the slightest hesitation, he gave his own answer to this question, which is difficult for ordinary people to choose. "Good, good, good." After hearing Shisui's reply, Sarutobi Hiruzen immediately showed a chrysanthemum-like smile on his face, and said 3 good words in a row. With his decades of experience, he naturally saw that Uchiha Shisui's words just now were from the bottom of his heart. "First generation, the will of fire you left behind is really useful." Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Uchiha Shisui's unwavering face. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Sarutobi Ninja once again praised in his heart. He was wise to modify the will of fire. In fact, the original will of fire was expressed as a sentence at the beginning of Konoha, where the leaves are flying, the fire will also be endless, the flames will continue to illuminate the village, and let the new leaves sprout. The burning of fallen leaves is likened to the heroic sacrifice of the older generation. The new leaves are likened to the young people. If the will of fire that the first generation of Hokage instilled in Konoha is that young people are the hope of the future, the older generation should trust and protect them. The sacrifice of the older generation is not meaningless. Instead, it will inspire young people to become the pillars of the future. This was the meaning of the village created by the first Hokage and Madara, to use the village to protect the growth of the next generation. Then the will of fire that the third Hokage instilled into Konoha is, whether it is the scattered fallen leaves or the newly sprouted leaves, your existence is just to burn your own afterglow to illuminate the village that protects you. The third Hokage instilled that everyone sacrifices to protect the existence of the village, but now the village is controlled by the strongest Hokage in history. Since everyone exists to illuminate the village, then isn't it to illuminate him, the third Hokage? Under such a distorted will of fire, the third generation had countless loyal subordinates. Perhaps they would not think that the third generation was using them. Instead, they would think that everything they did was for the good of everyone in the village. The third generation used the will of fire, which was 9/10 true and 1/10 false, to deceive countless ninjas who were extremely loyal to him. To what extent were they loyal? They were so loyal that even if the third generation asked them to kill their own relatives and friends, even their parents and tribesmen for the will of fire, they would do it. This was the horror of the will of fire, or it could be said that this was the horror of inner conviction. Now Uchiha Shisui has undoubtedly been baptized by his own will of fire. By the way, Shisui, can I trouble you for something? Sarutobi Hiruzen took a puff of cigarette and asked Uchiha Shisui. Now that it is confirmed that Uchiha Shisui has been successfully brainwashed by his will of fire, he can now ask him to do something for himself. Yes, third generation lord. Uchiha Shisui replied without hesitation. 11 reading every day, recharge 100 to get 500 VIP points. Chapter 20. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shisui, when you return to the clan, help me investigate Uchiha Manye. A trace of cruelty flashed in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes, he said to Uchiha Shisui in a stern voice. He had not forgotten the humiliation that Uchiha Manye had left him a few days ago. Uchiha Manye. Uchiha Shisui was stunned for a moment when he heard the name, then his expression became complicated. He remembered Uchiha Manye and the scene when he taught Uchiha Itachi. The two people had very conflicting ideas. Uchiha Shisui was for the benefit of Hokage Konoha, while Uchiha Manye was for the benefit of his family and himself. The two had a conflict because of Itachi. As a result, Uchiha Shisui would avoid Uchiha Manye with a dark face every time he saw him. What's wrong with Shisui? Is there a problem? Sarutobi Hiruzen saw Uchiha Shisui's face. He thought that he had a close relationship with Uchiha Manye. His face suddenly turned cold. He asked seriously. Uchiha Shisui thought for a moment. Finally, his eyes became firm. He said to Sarutobi Hiruzen. Hokage, I actually don't have a good relationship with Uchiha Manye. How could this happen? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked in confusion. In fact, I met a child in the tribe and taught him to put the interests of the village first, but Uchiha Manye stopped him and persuaded him to put the interests of himself and his family first. Uchiha Shisui answered in detail. Shisui, I'll leave this matter to you, please leave first. Hiruzen Sarutobi's expression did not change after hearing this. However, there were turbulent waves in his heart. He suppressed the waves in his heart and said to Uchiha Shisui calmly. Yes. Lord Hokage. Uchiha Shisui replied respectfully, and then turned and left. After Uchiha Shisui left, the cruelty hidden in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes could no longer be concealed. It seems that everything is just as the teacher said. The Uchiha clan is really the most evil clan in the world. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked through the glass and looked in the direction of the Uchiha clan. He whispered something in his heart. Then Sarutobi Hiruzen called a loyal Umbu and asked him to investigate Uchiha Manye in secret. Obviously, the Sandaime Hokage at this moment did not trust Uchiha Shisui very much. Under the cherry tree in the Uchiha clan's land, Uchiha Manye and Uchiha Itachi were standing next to them. There was a silver-white shadow. One of them was holding a wooden sword. Uchiha Itachi was holding the wooden sword in his hand. He was chopping slowly. Uchiha Manye was standing aside. He quietly watched Uchiha Itachi's movements. Wrong. It should be tilted back 5 millimeters. Uchiha One saw that Itachi's movements were slightly off. He immediately scolded him and suddenly swung the wooden sword in his hand. It hit Uchiha Itachi's slender back lightly. Humph. Uchiha Itachi, who felt pain in his back, didn't cry out, but he couldn't help but groan. Manye, isn't it a bit too much to teach the child like this? Hitaki Sakumo saw Uchiha Itachi in pain and dissuaded Manye reluctantly. You know, Uchiha Manye is now teaching Itachi his swordsmanship. Hitaki Sakumo knows very well how difficult it is for his own swordsmanship. Kakashi has only just gotten started after learning for so many years. Now Uchiha Itachi can remember the entire set of swordsmanship completely in just a few hours. It is already very powerful. But Uchiha Manye wants Itachi to do it exactly. This is really difficult. You know, Itachi is only a 5-year-old child now. Itachi, I will demonstrate it to you one last time. You must watch it carefully this time. Uchiha Manye ignored Hatake Sakumo and said to Uchiha Itachi indifferently, then he stepped back a few steps, gently swung the wooden sword in his hand, and then demonstrated the whole set of swordsmanship to Uchiha Itachi. Genius! Hatake Sakumo looked at Uchiha Manye's poetic movements and couldn't help but admire. Before in the courtyard, Uchiha Manye told him that he wanted to improve his swordsmanship. At that time, Hatake Sakumo didn't believe it at all. After all, this was the swordsmanship he had honed for decades. How could it be improved so easily by Uchiha Manye? As a result, Uchiha Manye slapped him hard in the face. It only took Uchiha Manye an hour and a half to improve his swordsmanship with the Rinnegan. Hatake Sakumo had to admit that the swordsmanship that Uchiha Manye used now was stronger than his previous swordsmanship in terms of strength and speed. Soon Uchiha Manye finished demonstrating the whole set of swordsmanship. Itachi, you can continue now. Uchiha Manye was about to urge Itachi to start training again. But Uchiha Itachi did not move. He looked at the entrance of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Manye looked at him. Uchiha Shisui, who was carrying a katana, was looking at them with a complicated expression. 11 reading every day, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points.